अथ षष्ठोऽध्यायः श्रीभगवानुवाच अनाश्रितकर्मफलं कार्यं कर्म करोति यः स सन्न्यासी च योगी च न निरग्निर्नचाक्रिया. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "One who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in a renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty." यं सन्न्यासमिति प्राहुर्योगं तं विद्धि पाण्डव नाख्यसन्न्यस्तसङ्कल्पो योगी भवति कश्चन. What is called renunciation you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu. For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. आरुरुक्षोर्मुनिर्योगं कर्म कारणमुच्यते योगारूढस्य तस्यैव शमः कारणमुच्यते. For one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, work is said to be the means, and for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. यदा हि निन्द्रियार्थेषु न कर्मस्वनुसज्जते सर्वसङ्कल्पसन्न्यासी योगारूढस्तदुच्यते. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. Uddhared atmanatmanam natmanamavasadayet atmainav yatmano bandhur atmaivaripur atmanaha. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. बन्धुरात्मात्मनस्तस्य येनात्मैवात्मनाजितः अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे वर्तेतात्मैव शत्रुवत्. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. जितात्मन प्रशान्तस्य परमात्मा समाहितः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयोः. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. ज्ञान विज्ञान तृप्तात्मा कूटस्थो विजितेन्द्रियः इक्त इत्युच्यते योगी समलोष्ट्राश्मकाञ्चनः. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in the transcendence and is self controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Surunmitraryudasina madhyastadvesha bandhushu sadhushvapi cha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasistitaha ekaki yata chittatma nirashira parigraha. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Suchau deshe prathistapya stiramasmanamatmanaha natyuchritam nati nicham chailajina kushottaram. Tatraikagram manakrutva yatachittendriya kriyaha upavishyasane yunjad yogamatma vishuddhaye. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayanna chalam stiraha samprekshanasika gram svam dishaschanavalokayan. Prashantatma vigatabhir brahmachari vrite stitaha mama samyamya machitto yukta asita matparaha. One should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of his nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi niyatamaanasaha shantim nirvana paramam mat samstam adhigacchati. Thus, practicing constant control of the mind, body and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. Natyashnatastu yogosti nachaikanta manashnataha nachati swapna shilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. There is no possibility of one becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. Yada viniyatam chittam atmanyevavathishtate nispruha sarvakamebhyo yukta ityucheyate tada. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. Yatha deepo nivatasto ningate sopama smruta yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanaha. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyate. Sukamaatyantikam yattad buddhigrayamatīndriyam vetti yatra na chaivayam sthitaschalati tattvataha. Yam labdvapacharam labham manyate nadhikam tataha yasmin sthito na dukkena gurunapi vichalyate. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samjitam. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to establish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material conduct. Sanishchayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa sankalpa prabhavan kamams tektva sarvana sheshataha manasevendriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides of the mind. Shanai Shanai Rupamed Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya Atma Samstam Manakrutva Nakinchidapi Chintaye. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in the trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Yato yato nischalati manaschanchalamastiram tatastato niyamyetad atman eva vasham nayat. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Prashantamanasam yenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahma bhutamakalmasham. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. Yunjannevam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam shukamashnute. Thus the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest state of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. Sarvabhutastamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the Supreme Lord, everywhere. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvancha mayi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Sarvabhutastitam yo mam bhajat ekatvamastitaha sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mayi vartate. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Super Soul, knowing that I and the Supreme Soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Atmaupam yena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. O Arjuna. Arjuna uvacha yoyam yogastvaya prokta samyena madhusudhana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvat sthitim stiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Chanchalam himana Krishna pramathi balavadhrudam tasyaham nigraham manye vayurivasu dushkaram. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. Sri Bhagavan Muvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Manodurnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu kaunteya Vairagyena cha grichyate. Lord Sri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. Asamyatatmana yogo drushpapa iti me matihi vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptumupayataha. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. Arjuna uvacha ayati shraddhayopeto yogachalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kamgatin krishna gacchati. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the path of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to the worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? Kachinno bhaya vibhrastas chinna brahmiva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimudho brahmanapati. O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and thus perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? Etan me shamshayam Krishna chetumarhasya sheshataha twadanya samshayashyasa chetanyupapadyate. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Parthanaiveha mutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyana krut kaschid durgatim tata gacchati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Partha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Papya punya krutam lokan ushitva shashwati samaha shuchinam srimatam gehe yoga bhrasto bijayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. अथवा योगिनाम् एव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतद्धि दुर्लभतरं लोके जन्म यदीदृशम्. Or if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in this world. तत्र तं बुद्धि संयोगं लभते पौर्वदेहिकं यतचेत ततो भूया संसिद्धौ कुरु नंदन. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. पूर्वाभ्यासेन तेनैव ह्यत्रेयवशोऽपि सा जिज्ञासुरपि योगस्य शब्दब्रह्माति वर्तते. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeing them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. प्रयत्नाद्यतमानस्तु योगी संशुद्धक्लीबिषः अनेकजन्म संसिद्धास् ततो याति परां गतिम्. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. तपस्विभ्योऽधिको योगी ज्ञानिभ्योऽपि मतोऽधिकः कर्मिभ्यश्चाधिको योगी तस्माद् योगी भवार्जुन. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances be a yogi. योगिनामपि सर्वेषां मद्गतेनान्तरात्मना श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां समे युक्ततमो मतः. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most ultimately united with me in yoga, and he is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Om Tat Sadidi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Atma Samyama Yogo Nama Shrestho Dhyayah.